Burnout is a trauma in the body. It's a very strong trauma in the body. And I found over time, and then I found out that a lot of people felt exactly the same way, but quietly feeling that way, because people don't really talk about this much when you're really experiencing burnout, is that burnout is the lack of giving and receiving. It's the lack of balance between giving and receiving.
Welcome to Tailoring Talk. I'm Roberto Revilla, bespoke tailor and weaver of superpowers. Join me and we'll meet self-starters and creators, dive into their journeys and uncover valuable lessons to help you be the very best you can be. Please help the show to grow and reach more listeners by hitting subscribe and giving us a rating. Today's guest equips entrepreneurs with strategies to optimize operations, drive revenue, and achieve lasting success. From humble beginnings in Brazil, she has lived in the USA for the last decade, building her business and investing successfully. However, at the same time as she celebrated hitting $1 million in her investment fund at the tender age of just 30, she experienced burnout to the point of having to stop work for months. She spent the next 10 years working out a better way to make money and create wealth. And she's here to share the secrets that will help you generate massive wealth through your business. Tailoring Talkers, please welcome Mariana Lacombe to the show. Mariana, how are you?
Hi, hello. Thank you for welcoming me here, and I'm very excited to be here, Roberto. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Did I pronounce your surname correctly?
Yes, it's great. Yes, it's French, but I'm Brazilian and I live in the United States, so it's all good.
It's such an awesome blend. So, Mariana, I want to kind of get straight into your burnout phase, if I may, and maybe just get the sort of tiring bit done first, but also because on a purely selfish note, I'm going through it currently. I've been saying that I hit burnout last year, but I've realized over the last few weeks and months that I'm still not out of it. Because it's not something, because that burnout nowadays is a word that seems to be thrown around like really easily by a lot of people. And burnout isn't waking up one morning and feeling kind of a bit poopy and then you decide you don't want to do anything, but then the next day you're kind of back to normal again. Burnout is a lot more serious than that. I mean, to take you out of your game for months when you've grown up as someone who's been I'm guessing a go-getter, very humble beginnings, watched your mum and dad struggle when you were a small child, and then eventually they had some level of success. You seem to have got the investing bug from your mum, who obviously seems to kind of know what she's doing with all that sort of thing. But then suddenly it's like roadblock, someone's taken your legs out from under you, some force, whatever, and you've just completely crashed and burned. Take me kind of back there. You might have to go further back to kind of get to that point.
Yeah.
But tell me what was burnout to you?
I really appreciate this question and how you want to talk about this, because you're absolutely right. As you can see, as you're feeling that you did go through burnout and you're recovering, burnout is a trauma in the body. It's a very strong trauma in the body. And I found over time, and then I found out that a lot of people felt exactly the same way, but quietly feeling that way, because people don't really talk about this much when you're really experiencing burnout, is that burnout is the lack of giving and receiving. It's the lack of balance between giving and receiving. So what happens is when, especially for business owners, entrepreneurs, we tend to give a lot. We give. Everything is for everybody. Everything is for the impact. Everything is for the growth. But there's not enough receiving. And that's what I've learned. And you're right. It was so difficult for me to understand what I was going through. And how I found about my burnout was even more shocking to me, because I definitely consider myself a peak performer. I was extremely fit back then. I was doing really well in my career. I was getting lots of promotions. I knew how to invest. I had the money. I had the looks. I had it all, you know? And then I went to I was actually working out. I used to work out every day during lunchtime. There's no overachievement. Like I wouldn't have lunch. I would work out. And then I couldn't move my legs. I couldn't move the leg press. And my personal trainer, I had a personal trainer. He's like, what's going on with you? Are you tired? Did you sleep well? Like, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. And then I didn't understand what was going on. So I went to my doctor to do some blood work to see if there was something up. And she told me that I was about to have a heart attack. And she said, if you don't stop, you're going to have a heart attack. And that was so shocking to me because my identity was exactly the opposite of someone that wasn't healthy. Exactly the opposite. I did not understand that. And she told me that I had to stop working for at least 3 months to be able to recover my body. And my body did not take that well because I was very addicted to the peak performer identity. And it was very shocking to me, honestly. But when I realized what was really, really going on and my body started to recover, then I could see symptoms of the burnout. One of them was very vivid to me, was withdrawal. So when you're burnt out, there's this lack of giving and receiving, the lack of balance. You actually don't feel like giving anymore. There's nothing to give. So you don't want to really interact with people. You want to be quiet. You know, that's kind of the thing that I felt. I felt like being quiet, being alone, being in silence, which was again against my identity as someone that was leading hundreds of people or someone that wanted to help other people. So that, for me, I think that the symptom of withdrawal was stronger than the physical weakness because I didn't feel like connecting. And that was so weird to me. I mean, how come I don't want to connect with people when that's my goal? That's my impact. That's my cause. That's what I fight for. So that was very shocking. And I found that I was excluding myself from my family, from friends. I used to go to work feeling almost like a panic attack. I didn't want to go to the gym anymore. And then I realized something was very wrong, really, with this lack of balance between giving and receiving. So I flipped the coin. And then I decided to put my recovery first and focus on myself. And that's very much what I teach other CEOs, business owners to do, to put themselves first so that they can give more. Because we're not used to it. You know, you're used to giving. And where is the receiving? You know, so did you feel the same way as well as you were going through burnout?
There's so much there that, you know, if I wasn't doing it physically, I was internally just nodding my head frantically. And I wrote down at the start of what you shared there, the lack of balance between giving and receiving. It's so true. You know, I've been exactly the same as you. I think there are parallels in our backgrounds about having to fight from a very young age to get to where we are today. And, you know, even when you reach the point where you don't really have to fight anymore, we just have that within us. And so you just keep going. And then all of a sudden, you know, for me, the first thing that happened was probably about 7 years ago. I was, so I use a Vespa, a scooter, to get around to see clients. And I was at a crossing to allow people to cross the road. And all that was on my mind that day was that we were going to have the biggest day revenue wise in our company history. Because everything had just kind of come together with the people that I was seeing that day. And that was where all my focus was. My preparation for the previous couple of weeks was all geared towards that Tuesday. And I passed out and came to. and I saw a tire tread literally bearing down on my face. And I
Wow.
realized everything happened so fast, but it was like it was in slow motion, right? I realized that as I had sat there letting people cross the road on my bike, a plant truck, I didn't know it was a plant truck at the time, but some sort of truck had just hit me in the back. And I heard people screaming, "There's somebody under your wheel, you need to stop." And he wasn't stopping. The only thing that was stopping him or slowing him down was the top box on the back of my bike was, slowing the tires down before they crushed my head. So I pulled myself out. I was so angry, I guess, at some point kicked in. But the adrenaline must have been really going because, he then got out of his cab and he's shouting at me and he said, "You cut me up." And I was like, "How could I have cut you up? I was already there. You came out of the turning behind me and you hit me in the back." So I took photos and so on because I was still focused on getting to my first appointment because this day needed to happen the way that I'd been planning for. And also I didn't want to let my clients down by being late. So I took all the photos I needed to. I called the local scooter dealer I deal with, and I said to them, "I've just had an accident. My bike is on the sidewalk." I hailed a taxi. I remember at some point getting the details of the witnesses, and I went straight to my first appointment. I was 5 minutes late. I think there must have been a rip in my suit. There was obviously blood, but I didn't realize it. And I apologized to my client. "I'm so sorry. I'm late." And he's like, "What the hell happened?" And I was like, "Oh, I got a bit hit by a truck, but don't worry about that. We need to get you sorted out." And he was like, "Whoa, slow down, sit down," got me a glass of water. He's like, "Let's just make sure you're okay." And I was still, "No, I'm late for you. Let's get down to this. And I need to get you back to your 9 o'clock meeting." And I tell that story just as an extreme example of what it's like for people like me and you, the way that we give so much to the point where we do not think or even take care of ourselves. And then, 7 years passed, a couple years in physical recovery, and there was some mental recovery to go through as well. But then I keep going, 200 miles an hour, don't stop. Everything else that's going on in my personal life, you, at the same time that all this is going on, have started a family. Your kids are growing up because you have 2 daughters and a son, right?
Yes. They were children back then. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have all that going on because you're a mother as well. And it was last August, I just exploded like a car going down the freeway at top speed and suddenly the engine blowing up. That's pretty much how I felt. And I just couldn't do anything. I had to get out. I had to get away. Everything that I do day to day that I do because I love doing it, suddenly I didn't love it anymore. I didn't want to talk to clients. I didn't want to do any work. I didn't want to do anything with the podcast. I'd had enough. And it was physical. It was a physical repulsion because mentally there was the me inside that was really locked up and confused, like, behind the bars of a jail, like, hang on a minute, this is wrong. This is like, what the hell's going on? And so, fast forward to today, and I'm going through a process now of, like you say, flipping it around, trying to give more. And it's not easy. It's such a hard, long process. But of just trying to take care of myself a bit better.
Yeah, that is so true. It's so frustrating when your body doesn't respond to your mind. Your body's failing you. That's how it feels like, that your body is failing you. And how come that body that is so resilient, that body that could handle so many things, that body that builds that resiliency from, early years in your childhood, right? You could handle so much. How come it's now failing you when you needed it the most? And that's kind of how I felt too. I hit like this big moment in my life when everything was great, but not really. So I'm so sorry that those things happen to you, but that is the old archetype that a lot of leaders still are still run by, which is the martyr. The martyr does everything for everyone, and the martyr is willing to die, right? And that dying can be an identity death, when you have to let go of a certain identity completely. And that is very challenging, to become someone else. And the body stops responding. And it's so fascinating that we're talking about this, because in a mastermind, right before the training, right before actually this conversation, I did a training where I created a scoreboard to measure their performance in Q1. And I created 4 categories. One category is celebration, how much they're celebrating Q1 and different aspects of their business and their lives. The other one is their sense of satisfaction, because there's that too. Satisfaction is 100% subjective. You can see that you have $1 million in your bank account, but you can be highly dissatisfied still. So I'm assessing that. There's also numbers, of course, the very objective aspect of business, assessing numbers, profit, and other personal numbers that I see as well as a consequence of the business. And the 4th dimension is the body. And I help them assess the body, because if the body is not on board with your goals, if the body is not on board with your desire to grow, the body will do something to stop you. And it's fascinating to me how my clients get to me saying, I just set this massive goal, but then I got sick, or I got into this accident. Like, accidents are so normal. And I'm going to say this not to make things simplistic, but whoever's listening to this, so that you feel a little bit more normal, that we get into accidents like yours. We get sick. We do silly things that hurt the body. And all of a sudden you should be going to that meeting. You should be traveling to that specific conference. You should be, doing a specific podcast, and then you get sick. Like, I launched a program last year all about wealth and money. That was my dream. Here's what happened. I got COVID. I mean, I never got COVID in 4 years. And right before I'm doing the program live, then I get COVID. So I'm coughing, I lose my voice. I'm like, what the heck? But I know it's the body not being 100% aligned with that goal. So it's interesting that, I help people grow their businesses, but at the same time, the body needs to be upgraded, because the body is coming to the business full of traumas and full of fears and full of conditionings that are so outdated. Like, my burnout is a trauma in my body. I really need to tell you this, that your burnout is a trauma in the body. So when you're growing a business, you need to take that into consideration. So upgrading how you take care of your body is so important. Now, I was telling the recording earlier today, every time I have a big goal, I always ask myself, what's the new water intake I need for this project? So I upgrade my bottles, look at the size of this stuff. Like, this is the size of goals. My project. Right? So it's in the scoreboard. It's in the business performance scoreboard. How is your body on board? And here's how I do this. This is the tip for all of you guys. There are many questions that I ask, but I do a quick screening, a body screening. So this is the body screening. So think about your craziest goal, the most exciting goal that you have, you're currently working on. So you take a minute, take a deep breath, and you ask your body, different parts of the body, on a scale of 0 to 10, how on board is that part of your body? So you ask your brain, how on board are you with this goal? You capture the number. You ask your heart, how on board are you with this goal? And you ask your gut, how on board are you with this goal? You capture the numbers. So why is that? Our body has 3 brains. We have the brain, we have the heart brain, and the gut brain. So the head brain, the brain, is the intellect. It's the strategy. It's the how to. It's the process. It's the methodology. So if my clients rate lower numbers in the brain, that means they don't have clarity. So they don't know how. And we need to then come up with better strategies or come up with a methodology or a step-by-step process. So brain is clarity. Heart brain is purpose. It is love. It is passion for the project. Usually my clients rate very high in the heart because they're very passionate people and they're often service driven. So they have a bigger cause, but the heart needs to be fully on board. If your heart is not into something, probably when I burnt out my career, my heart was totally out. It was like probably a 1 or 0, right? But the heart. And the gut is the trickiest one because we often don't connect with our gut, but the gut is instinct and it's safety. So often when the gut is a lower score, that means you're not feeling safe with that goal. And this is very normal to actually rate lower in the gut brain, let's say, because that's our sense of safety. So when you have burnout, like I did, making money meant getting sick. So I had to make peace with making money because I did not want to connect. Making money means work so hard that I get close to a heart attack to make that disconnection. So a lot of people need to work on feeling safe around making money, feeling safe about being very wealthy. And well, you are in a different part of the world. I come from Brazil. I'm in the US. I work with people everywhere in the world. There's so much trauma about money. So money meaning that you're going to be arrogant when you make money, or you're going to lose it all when you make money, or people are going to steal your money when you make a lot of money. So the gut needs to be on board. If you're not feeling safe with success, the body's somehow going to sabotage your process. Does that make sense? So
yeah, no, absolutely.
Those questions and come up with your scores.
Part of me is not surprised that you take such a holistic view when you're working with your clients and you're really getting beside them to work out, using your own personal experience to make sure that physically they're protecting themselves.
Yes.
It's such a responsible way to coach as well. I mean, really, my mind is absolutely blown because I've never, ever heard anyone in your field work in that way. I think it's absolutely phenomenal, really. I mean, I had a clue because when you look at your about section on your website, and I love the fact you've each section about you've labeled the alchemist, the strategist, achiever persona. So that kind of gave me a clue as to your approach. But that's just fantastic. There was something I was thinking about there, and I'm probably going to link the two things really badly. But bear with me. So thinking about the word burnout, I've got this itch, Mariana, that I need to scratch at some point. And I really want to own a Mustang one day. Not a horse, the car, right?
Yeah.
I've just got this itch. I just would love to get my hands on one. And anyway, there's a mode on modern Mustangs, right? You can set them to do what is called a burnout, right? So you basically hold the car and it spins the back wheels until they smoke. And, for street racers and people like me that are big fans of Fast and Furious, it's a really cool thing. Also, it ruins your tires, but who cares? And I kind of just had I'm very visual, okay? So I kind of was then starting to draw the parallel with entrepreneurs and the ceilings that they hit. because, at the very start of this, I said that you were going to give people some secrets and insight into how to move from, maybe being at a 6-figure profit level to 7 figures. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about this earlier today ahead of our conversation, that if you've got your own business and you manage to get to a level where you're at a 5-figure profit level, you've probably still got a job. So you've still got the kind of stresses and strains and annoyances that you have when you're employed by someone, but just with the added benefit, in inverted commas, of not really being able to go home and forget about things. So you're kind of trapped. When you get out of that into the 6-figure profit level, I'm guessing probably at the lower to mid 6-figure profit level, you've got a bit more than a job. You've got a bit more, you're able to take more from the business for yourself and reward yourself more, but you're still trapped. And then you start trying to look for ways to accelerate to get to the 7-figure level, because the 7-figure level is like nirvana. As long as you've got all the other pieces and you've got the right generals in place around you to support you, that's freedom for a lot of entrepreneurs. Because when you say to them, if you could grow to £1 million or $1 million profit or more a year, would that be life-changing? And they're suddenly, you see their shoulders relax all of a sudden as they think about it. And they think about the places they can go, the holidays they can go on, the trips they can date, the things that they've been wanting to do for so long that they've not been able to let themselves for fear of spending too much money or investing in the wrong places. All of a sudden it's freedom. But in the process of banging the accelerator to get to that 7-figure ceiling, for some reason, there's also some force there that's also hitting on the brake, causing their back wheels to spin out, and then the engine blows up. Yeah. Does that make sense? Is that analogous to situations that you find yourself in when you're working side by side with certain clients?
Absolutely. This is such a perfect analogy. It is exactly how they feel. Here's the concern. Here's what they're afraid of. As they're going through those phases of the business, you described them really well, the 5-figure, the 6-figure, the 7-figure. There is more work, for sure, when you're ramping up. A lot of people say it's much, much harder. For those who break the 7-figure ceiling, it's much harder to get to 7 figures than to get from 6 to 7, to get from 7 to 8. Much harder. I'm going to use another analogy. Maybe you're going to get this.
Go for it.
But here's the biggest fear, that it took them so much energy and so much work to get to 6 figures. So if they're now growing to 7 figures, they cannot tolerate they cannot tolerate what could potentially, be asked from them, to get to 7 figures. It's too much work because they're already working so much. So how could they grow to 7? It would be amazing, of course, to be a millionaire, to make millions of dollars from their business. But if they're already working so much to make 100K, let's say, it's unbearable to think about growing that much. So that is a big fear. However, what I particularly teach my clients is to change the relationship between work and money. Because at some point, money is a consequence of work. So I work X hours, I make X amount of money. So if I want to make X amount of money, 10X amount of money, I have to work 10X. That's kind of what they feel, which is not true. So my clients, over time, they reverse that relationship between time and money. The less they work, more money they make. That's what ends up happening. But you have to learn how to do that. That is done with a massive mindset upgrade, a massive body upgrade, but also strategy and systems and people and team, and there's a process to do that. So the new analogy I wanted to introduce is to imagine a business being like your child, as if you have a kid. So when you create a business, you have a baby, you have a newborn. That newborn requires a lot of your attention. Maybe you're not going to sleep at night for months. And then this baby now is a toddler, and a toddler that runs everywhere and, is messy and a little brat, maybe, and then you require a different type of attention, not as much as a newborn, but you still have to take care of that toddler. And then the toddler becomes a child and becomes a teenager, becomes an adult. And you always have to take care of that child. Doesn't matter how old that child is. My grandma used to say that you will always be worried about your kids, just the type of worry that changes. But you will always be worried about the kid. And it's the same thing with businesses too. So this is why it's important for you to upgrade your CEO identity as you go, just like you upgrade your identity as a parent. You can't treat a teenager like you used to treat your toddler. Some parents used to do that. It's not going to go well. You have to change your approach to things and the way you raise your child. So the business operates in a similar way. And so if you, and using the Mustang analogy, if you believe that in order for you to reach the peak performance of that vehicle, which is your business, you have to burn your wheels to do that, you're going to be in deep trouble because your car has a certain amount of horsepower that it can tolerate. So you have to add more horsepower to it. With other brains, maybe, with more people, with teams, with systems. And so that you can be more in the driver's seat. You can be the driver, not the vehicle anymore. When you are growing your business, you are many times the vehicle, the fuel, the wheels, you're everything. But you learn to be more in the driver's seat. You learn to be more the one that leads. And then you set up everything else to be able to make you a peak performer, truly, as a CEO. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. Do you know, I'm literally in a purely platonic way falling in love with you because you just took my car analogy and just ran with it absolutely beautifully. You have to have the Mustang, by the way. So you just told me something fantastic. You have to have that Mustang. So I know it's a little late for you in the UK, but maybe tomorrow you're going to go do a test drive and feel the power of the car and put that as your reward because it moves you. So we'll continue on the car analogy for the moment, right? So if my business is a vehicle and I'm at 6 figures, but I need to get to 7, and I can't, if I try to get to 7 with the horsepower that I have and the components that I have that produce that current amount of horsepower, I'm going to blow up, right? If I take a car into the shop and just say to them, I want you to tune it, I want you to remap the software and just unlock it so it can do 1,000 horsepower, they're going to look at me like I'm crazy. Then we're like, no, you need to change the air intake filter. We need to upgrade this. We need to upgrade that. We might need to change the suspension. We need to change the exhaust. If we don't do all those things, you're just going to blow this car the moment you walk back out of here. So really what we're doing, if by submitting to an amazing coach like yourself, because that's what you do, right? So the best auto tuners, the car owner goes into the shop. The best tuners they kind of listen to what the owner wants, but they don't, right? What they do is they look at the vehicle, they look at the owner, what type of driving are you doing? Okay, and what are we working with here? Okay, well, for you to achieve that, looking at the physical equipment you have, this is the changes we need to make. Otherwise, if I do what you've just told me to and get you straight there, make that quantum leap, from 500 to 1,000 horsepower, you're just going to blow this thing. We need to do this in a balanced way and make sure that we're checking the engine, we're checking the exhaust system, the fuel system, the braking system, the suspensions, and any upgrades that we need to make, any changes that we need to make sure we do that so that you can actually run at that power level. And again, now we'll go back to business, right? And that's really what you're doing. You're looking at the owner, the driver of the car, working out, where are you in terms of health? Where are you in terms of your personal finance? Where are you with your goals? How aligned are you with your goals? Both in terms of mentally, in terms of instinctively, in terms of the passion that you have or may actually not have, you think you have. You really want to get underneath the hood there and work all of that stuff out before you start driving off and exploding into flames.
Absolutely. I seriously love that you're using this analogy because it feels like
I went on a bit too
as
much.
if you have access to my training. It's like my other training, I created the analogy of a race. And I helped them visualize this whole process as a race. And of course, there's the driver. You're the driver. You can have the most amazing system in place or like the vehicle and the business, but the driver is key. So you downloaded the routine that I had, and you could see that there are many moments of rest and recovery, specifically because of the burnout. And then the analogy race, I asked them to create pit stops. And that is important because you have to upgrade certain things for your vehicle to operate well. But you have to know also your goal. So let's say if you want to upgrade the vehicle, the business, what is your goal? You're going to go to shop and you're going to say, improve my car. But they're going to ask, what do you want? For what? Do you want speed or do you want endurance? Do you want comfort? Or, do you want silence or do you want noise? What do you want? There is the driver 1,000%. But this is where you flip the relationship between making money and your time. You have to know what is exactly that you need to upgrade in a business right away. Sometimes it is the driver that needs CPR, that needs immediate support. And sometimes it is to add more pit stops, to add more moments of rest and pause and recovery. It is sometimes the need to upgrade something more important in the business. Truly, I see a lot of business owners believing that having a team is the first thing that they have to do. Maybe it is not. Maybe adding a team when the time is not right is the worst thing that someone can do because it will just add more overwhelm and more expenses and more burnout even. So the journey is so unique to everyone. And I definitely wanted to say this to everyone watching this, listening to this. I don't want anyone to make yourself wrong for the journey you're in, but at the end of the day, you need to know exactly what is the goal that you're looking for. Are you looking for endurance? Are you looking for sprints? A lot of my peeps, they talk about creating generational wealth, for example. This is an endurance race. This is something that needs to happen right now. It starts right now, but you're not going to do sprints because you're going to be burning out. You have to think long term. And some of them come to me and say, I want to hit this number by the end of this year. I'm like, great. So this is a sprint. Let's do this. So knowing what is your goal, your biggest outcome when doing any of this type of work is also important. I think that you can burn yourself out because you're playing other people's game or you're running other people's races when you have to focus on yours.
Absolutely. And this is the other, I think, not so much a mistake, but it's something else, another trap that a lot of entrepreneurs fall into. So I'm part of a business network over here which is full of people at different stages of the entrepreneurial journey. And many of these fine men and women, some of them will be listening to this right now, have built amazing businesses. Some of them are on their third or fourth cycle. They built a business, exited, built a business, exited, and they're going through the cycle again. And they just have this knack, this passion, skill, talent for building something from nothing, big teams into something that can be sold, and then just repeating and doing it all over again, sometimes even in a completely different market. And what happens with some people, and I'll include myself in that bracket, is you suddenly start looking at what other people have done and you start imposing that on yourself, thinking, maybe I need to do that. That's what I need to achieve in order to be successful like that person. But the reality is that success is different for every individual, and it comes from a place of working it out what it is that you actually want, rather than looking out your window at everybody else, because they're doing what they want to do. I came to this realization recently, and I think it was through this burnout process. I always try to, whatever I go through, I always try to take the positives from it. And the positives from this, and me not actually wanting to really do much at all and saying no to a lot of people for the first time in my life, was that when someone again suggested to me, we need to sit down and we need to have a conversation about your business because you've got something that I can see can be scaled, and we should be looking at how you're going to start hiring and multiplying yourself. And I'm just like, but I don't want to do that. Like, I really, really hate managing people. I hate training people. It's not something that I want to do. I have enough having to deal with my own self, let alone worrying about everybody else as well. I love what I do. If I was a Michelin star chef, I wouldn't want to have multiple restaurants. I would just want to create the best experience and the best food that I can for my regular diners in my one location, but do it better than anybody else, so they keep coming back time. That's where my passion is. I'm not interested in opening now. I'm on a food analogy, Mariana. Sorry, I'm not interested
that works
in
for me
opening.
too. My son is a chef, so.
Oh, awesome! Right, so I'm not interested in opening multiple locations and being a TV celebrity and all of this. I just want to focus on my passion, which is right here in my little workshop in the West End of London. And and as soon as I kind of gave myself permission to say that out loud to myself, suddenly it lifted a whole load of pressure off my shoulders. It was like a cloud was lifted, and suddenly I had clarity, because suddenly I could see the path. And I think it's such a shame that a lot of entrepreneurs don't even get to that point. They burn out and their businesses fizzle out before they get to that realization, because they're always chasing somebody else's dream rather than, as you said, running their own race.
Yeah, it's so right. You know what came to me? A book came to me, and I'm not sure if you read this book. You're probably familiar with Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
Millions and millions of people read this book. So last year, I read this book 7 times. I don't know. I lost count. But then I found out that there was another book by Napoleon Hill called Outwitting the Devil. Very few people know about this book. And the interesting thing about this book, I talk about this book, I feel goosebumps all the time, because Napoleon Hill mapped out what needs to happen for you to succeed. He interviewed hundreds of the most successful people in the 1920s. And that is the outcome of that research is Think and Grow Rich. During Think and Grow Rich, while he was doing that research, his life became a living hell. And he had the most horrible challenges personally. It was very difficult for him. So in parallel to Think and Grow Rich, he started writing Outwitting the Devil. And he talked about what happens when we set big, gigantic goals and all the obstacles that start to happen in your life when you're working on success, on achieving success. And he was surrounded by the most successful people in the world, and he was also successful. And he was confused about how come I'm facing so many challenges and so many distractions, noise, like people trying to get you out of your own race. And he wrote Outwitting the Devil. So I really recommend everybody to read this book. It's a very impactful book, and it was so impactful that actually it was kept secret for generations. It was first published, if I'm not mistaken, in 2014. So
Wow.
it was kept secret for almost a century. And he talks about that, how we are affected by circumstances, other people. He calls it drifting, which is also a race car analogy. You know, it's the type of thing that creates doubts, that makes you doubt your journey, your choices, and how all of that slows you down or eliminates you from the race. And so many people give up because of that drifting, because of those distractions, because of all of that doubt that is embedded in your body, in your mind, in society, that's not yours. So he says that you have to mind your business. The antidote to this is to mind your business. And I love this expression in English because there's no such a thing in Portuguese, but especially being a business advisor, I always tell my people, mind your business, not other people's business, literally.
Yeah.
So I really recommend that book to everyone. If you are a fan of Napoleon Hill, you have to see this other side of his experience in success, which is so real. Because let's say if everybody implemented all the things that he taught in Think and Grow Rich, we would have many more millionaires in the world. But we don't, specifically because of all the drifting and all the distractions and all the things that try to get you out of the game, when very few people can actually commit to that. That's why we have very few people in the world that can overcome all the barriers and truly thrive and reach their top. I mean, their top meaning what the top means to them. But not everybody can do that. So the more you mind your business, the more you developed mental and physical toughness, the more resilience you truly create, and spiritual toughness too. It's so important to build spiritual resilience so you know your purpose and your place on earth. Business gets easier and easier. Numbers, finances, wealth are now easy topics, not complicated topics. Numbers are easy. People think it's the opposite, but numbers and growing wealth, that is the easy part. The hard part is the internal work that we actually get to do. So intuitively, just this book came to me, and I would recommend everybody listening to this to grab it right away, because it's a secret gem. It was kept secret for a long time.
I'm going to jump straight on that. I made sure I wrote that. You've noticed because you saw the pen in my hand, I gave it away. I have to say now, this is the first, I mean, this will probably be episode 156, 160, I don't know. It's the first time. I always will take notes afterwards when I'm editing and I'm listening back, as along with the rest of the audience. This is the first time on a live recording that I've actually felt I've just had to grab my pen and just make notes. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
I was having a conversation with another founder yesterday, funny enough, and we were talking about how we could work less hours and make more money.
Oh, interesting.
which is the dream, right? But he is the you may know him actually, Wade Galt, the 3-day weekend entrepreneur. So that's. Yeah, so Wade's whole thing is about showing people that he works with how to make more money in less time so that they can enjoy the things that they want to do in life. And so we were having this conversation yesterday, and, I said to him, really, what we need to do, I'm going to jump back into a car analogy again. I'm so sorry. We need to lift the hood up, right? And turn the ignition. And when the engine's running, we need to try and work out where we can get a bit more performance, and also where the performance blockers are as well. Because if you eliminate the performance blockers and then you work out where you can just tweak enough without any major surgery to just get more performance. A lot of my fellow founders, we've been having these conversations over recent dinners and things, and the word or the phrase needle movers is starting to crop up more and more. A lot of people in my circle, we're starting to use that phrase. And now I'm starting to use it all the time, because the more I use it and the more I say it, the more I'm starting to look for needle movers. Now people are listening thinking, what the hell does he mean? Well, you can nudge a needle by doing busy work, or maybe you are just nudging the needle in your business. You're not doing much. You're kind of just doing enough. You're ticking along. But the work that you're doing, if you eliminated some of it and maybe tweaked some of it, you could cause huge gains, like really shove that needle up the other end of the spectrum. And I somehow am starting to, I never had this way of thinking before I found the clarity of purpose that I've found recently. And you're nodding your head and you're smiling, because I'm guessing you see this time and time again when you're working with people and you're helping them to tune up and upgrade the parts that they need to upgrade. And then suddenly they're ready to really start seeing where suddenly it's like Neo in the Matrix, right? Suddenly, towards the end when they're shooting the hell out of him, he suddenly gets that clarity and he can see everything in front of him. It's working out where we can stop the bullets and then just push them to where we want them to go. I don't know where that came from.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's brilliant. That's exactly.
Is that the secret, Mariana? Is that really the secret? Everything we're talking about here, if you package that all up, is that the kind of secret source from helping someone to shift from maybe trundling around in first and second gear their entire entrepreneurial career and suddenly making that quantum leap and shifting them into the fast lane, heading towards seven-figure profit, freedom, all that sort of thing? It's we've got to clear the gunk that's swilling around in multiple parts of our lives.
Yeah, totally. That's why I was saying that money is not a consequence of the amount of work that you put out there. It's just not. You can be working a lot, but if you're really not doing the things that will move that needle, and sometimes it's a millimetric shift that you actually have to work on, you're going to be spinning your wheels. You're not going to move any further. And one of my mantras working with my clients is very simple. To earn more, we do less. To do more, we do less. So in that doing less is all about finding the one thing that will make that shift. So let's say if I'm working on a business plan, or I actually don't even work on business plans, but work more on business maps and possibilities. I'm always talking about possibilities. I ask them, what are the possibilities you actually have? Let's say to bring in 10 clients this month. And we create a list, gigantic list. And we add very obvious things, very creative things, very crazy things, very silly things. We just put it all there. And my question, let's say you've come up with 20 ideas. My question is always, what is the one thing that will get you closer to your outcome? If you could choose one out of 20, what would that be? And they pick that one. Like, great. That's the one thing you're going to focus on, not the 20. Because what happens with people is that they're going to be focusing on the 20 things and spinning their wheels instead of focusing on the one that will make them take that quantum leap. And it's very normal for my clients to achieve their 2-3 year goals in 6 months because they are now always focusing on the one thing that will get them farther, faster, with more joy, with more fun. And if I can sprinkle my magic sauce, it will be that sense of well-being for sure, that sense of satisfaction. That's one of the dimensions I assess in a business performance. If they're always satisfied, they're going to have way more energy to execute the one thing with more intention, with more power, with more purpose, more passion, and people feel it. At the end of the day, we're magnets and people feel that you are so certain that that is the one thing you have to be doing, that people will feel called to work with you. You know, it's not someone that's just saying the random things that everybody says, but you know that that's the thing you have to be doing. So it is that intentionality that makes the magic happen as well, I believe. And it is not about the amount of work. You can work a lot. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that people don't have to work or don't need to work. You work a lot, but on the things that you know are going to move the needle, that is so satisfying. You know, that's so satisfying. It makes you feel so good, which is the extreme opposite of burnout.
Yeah. Well, because it's easy.
Opposite of burnout.
It's easier to ID and to work on one thing and take action then, you know, we all know when we have a to-do list or we've identified 20 things we could possibly do to achieve something, we end up doing nothing. Because it's like, okay, I don't know where to start. Maybe I'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. And then, you know, you get to 5 years, 10 years down the line and you're still stuck in the same place, right? You're still in the car with one foot on the brake, the other foot hammered down on the accelerator, and all that's happening is you're not going anywhere, but there's a hell load of smoke going on behind you.
Yeah.
And then eventually you blow up.
Yeah. You know, this is why everyone needs someone to help you. I'm always surrounded by mentors, coaches, advisors, because we don't know those things. We're not seeing, right? We don't see the smoke. Everybody else sees the smoke, but you don't, especially when you have a pattern of wanting to overachieve. There's the identity that kicks in. And that's why you can't see those blind spots at all. You can see the list of 20 things. If you're by yourself, you're going to want to do the 20 things, or you're going to choose the one that's a little faster, a little easier, but not necessarily the one that will make the difference. So we're human beings. At the end of the day, we have to remember that we are human beings with very similar patterns, and we can become superhuman when we start to do the things that nobody else is, like minding your business, when everybody else is minding everybody's businesses, right? Focusing on the one thing that will always move that needle, always having as many pit stops as possible so that you can upgrade yourself, upgrade your body, rest, recover, so you can go back to your race feeling fully recharged and ready for another round, right, of work. So, you know, maybe many people listening to this already heard those things before, but what happens is that we hear those things sporadically or, you know, pieces of it. And when you learn how to run your life based on these principles and you implement them, then you see real magic happening for sure. So that's what excites me the most, to see people doing that. You know, people taking those massive quantum leaps in business and, of course, in life as a consequence. At the end of the day, the business is just a mirror reflection of who you become individually. So if your business is growing, you must see a direct reflection in your personal life. And that, to me, is priceless. I'd say that's my cause. You know, if everybody needs to have a cause, that is my cause, to see CEOs, business owners truly enjoying life based on their terms and how they perceive satisfaction.
And I can see that, Mariana, the way your eyes light up when you talk about that. You're the living embodiment of everything that you do for your clients and the wider world beyond by giving your time to come on shows like this. I'm so grateful for everything that you've shared with us today. You lovely people listening, if you're now inspired to quantum leap to seven-figure profits, head to the ceoadvisory.co, where you'll be able to take a short training on breaking through that six-figure ceiling. You can book a free call with Mariana. You've been listening to her for the last nearly an hour. She's not going to bite. She'll assess your business. She'll assess your business situation and create a plan with you to boost your profits. There's a PDF also that you've created, Mariana. So if people go to the ceoadvisory.co/routine, they can download a PDF where you give the steps that people can take. If they follow that routine daily, it will help them to kind of get in alignment with a lot of the things that we've been talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. So my clients follow a specific routine. I call it the seven-figure CEO routine for riches. And it's truly a compilation of what the most successful people in the world do consistently to create that sense of satisfaction, recovery, while also being highly strategic and intentional about their actions and their decisions. So it's an amazing guide. So you're going to have a list of daily, weekly, and monthly activities that you can follow. And I find it also, I think it's also a really nice assessment to take a look at where you're at. So if you look at these activities and you see if you're pretty much on track, you're in great shape. But maybe if you're not doing none of the things that I listed there, there's such an amazing opportunity for you to be able to upgrade your days, your weeks, and your months to be more intentional, to focus on the things that really move the needle, as you said, so you can keep upgrading yourself, your body, your business. So it's very simple. It's the ceoadvisory.co, so co/routine, and you can just grab your copy.
That's amazing. And I'll make sure I've got those links in the show notes. Yeah. Mariana, thank you so much. When I say this, it's been honestly such a delight, really. Have you had fun today?
Very much so. Thank you so much, Roberto, for the opportunity here. And it feels really good to be able to talk about what you really meant to be on this planet. So I'm really happy to be here with you. Thank you for creating this vehicle for me to share my wisdom. And I hope also that it inspired you and that you go finish your day and do what you have to do. Feeling inspired and feeling that there are things for you to work on that will make you feel even better. And I'm pretty sure that your body will recognize that as a great sign to feel safe again, to feel safe to grow, to feel safe to be wealthy, and that burnout's just going to be a story from the past.
Oh, no, thank you. And I know a lot of our listeners will be energized as well. Mariana, thank you so much. Thank you all so much for joining Mariana and I. Follow the show on Instagram at Tailoring Talk Podcast for show updates and latest episodes, highlights and news. The podcast is also on YouTube, so you can catch the video versions at Roberto Revilla London, and you can email me at tailoringtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Hit subscribe, please give the show a rating and a review, and click the share button in your player to send this episode on to someone you know who needs to hear what Mariana shared with us today. Very important. And if you love Tailoring Talk and you want to support the show, hit the support the show link in the show notes. Have a great week. Be good to each other. Make sure your engines are tuned up properly. And I'll catch you on the next one.